some grand display of violence, or is there a way that police, you think, can defuse this?
Well, ironically, what the terrorists want in the first instance is publicity, and therefore for this to go as long as possible, which actually means they're less inclined to do something rash because that ends everything. The police, of course, don't want anything rash occurring. They obviously would like to get a clear line of sight on the person they believe to be the attacker, but with people against the window that's very hard to do, and they'll proceed slowly. They'll look at alternative entrances and see what their options are, but they'll just proceed with caution. So in a strange kind of way, what the police want and what the terrorists want this way coincide. They want it to go on for some time. We want it to end peacefully. The terrorists don't care for themselves or for their hostages.
We've seen civil aviation has shut down the airspace above Sydney. Are you familiar with the protocols around that?
I think it's a standard protocol given the uncertainty of what's going on, and if it's established there's a link with the Beecroft arrest this morning, which we know was a counter-terrorism arrest, then they're worried about some sort of larger plan at work. It seems unlikely that there's any particular danger with air traffic over the CBD, but it's just an excess of caution.
Talk us through the Beecroft arrest, if you will.
Well, we were waiting for details from the police. They're going to give a press conference and explain it, but the fact that that press conference has been delayed strongly suggests there may be a link between that arrest and what's taking place in Martin Place. And given the pattern of previous raids and arrests, one would think a link with Islamic State, possibly the Al-Nusra Front, possibly both. That's happened in the past. And a link between foreign fighter recruitment networks and possible plans to carry out attacks in Australia. One thing odd with the Beecroft arrest, we're told that there's two sets of charges. One, supporting foreign incursions, foreign fighters, and two, looking at planning preparations for an act of terror in Australia. And that's the big fear, this closing of the circle between both threats.
If there is a link, it would seem that it's either coincidental that this situation has developed today, or they moved very quickly. Given the way they moved in, the hostages, the flags, does this have the appearance of something to you that was planned, and would it likely have been planned for some time?
Look, it may have been thought about and discussed for some time, and therefore if one party, and if there is a link, if one party heard news of the arrest, that may have been the spur to go ahead and do something regardless. The worry about the lone wolf attacks is they don't require a lot of operational planning. You can discuss what you might do with a friend. Islamic State, in fact, is urging people to do that, but not to discuss it, lest you're detected. So somebody can make a very rash decision to go and walk into a crowded place and attempt this sort of thing. In a sense, apparently, we saw that with the Gunman hideout case in Endeavour Hills back in September, that he seemed to have decided quite late in the day he was going to go with a similar sort of flag, 2 knives to Endeavour Hills Police Station, and then lash out at the officers.
We've had reports of up to 2 gunmen. We're not sure at this stage. Do you think it's likely that this has the smell of a lone wolf attack?
Yeah, lone wolf can literally mean it doesn't have to be just one individual, but ones and twos. And there may have in fact been a small cell involving the Beecroft arrest and what's happening here. But the characteristic of the lone wolf attacks is often we don't know who these people are, and they don't operate in large, long-term, complex plans. We saw that with Pendennis and Operation Neath in times past. Long periods of preparation, rather audacious goals like attacking the Opera House. Lone wolf attacks, much more modest goals, but much softer targets, harder to protect.
We saw the national terror alert level lifted to high in September, obviously in response to the raids at Sydney and the Gunman attack at Endeavour Hills. There were no specific threats. That would seem to lend weight, wouldn't it, to this being a lone wolf attack, perhaps done at the spur of the moment? Because that's the difficulty, isn't it? If someone's acting in ones and twos, there isn't a communication network you can tap into, and these people are invisible.
Yeah, in fact, Islamic State, if it's indeed an Islamic State connection that has to be confirmed, is saying to its supporters, don't ask your friends, don't discuss, don't seek advice, because of course that's the way you get discovered. Just go ahead and do it without telling anyone anything. We did hear outgoing Director General of ASIO, David Irvine, saying he was worried, they had been worried for months about lone wolf attacks. We now know that perhaps as early as May they had Operation Appleby underway because of intercepted calls between people in Turkey and Syria and protégés back in cities like Sydney.